Hello everyone, and welcome. Welcome to this audio podcast. This audio podcast is part of the Probe series. This audio podcast as part of the Storm and Smash Up, and this audio podcast is part of Consular and Shout Out, and this audio podcast is part of the specials. This audio podcast will continue looking at in around cellular localization of breast tumor kinase or BRK and protein tyrosine kinase 6 in tumor development, and where this works is attributed to science student M. Bohtha from an academic institution in the UK. So as part of this audio podcast, and looking in on at BRK expression, and particularly in amongst breast cancer. And there will be an audio podcast in this series looking at other cancers additionally. So in on BRK expression in breast cancer. Breast cancer is identified as a heterogeneous disorder, and BRK was perhaps one of the first, but one of the first sort of uh, kinases identified in amongst breast cancer and in amongst breast cancer and in around the pathology. And BRK is highly expressed in primary breast tumors, whilst it is also absent in normal breast tissues. There are breast cancers with estrogen receptors and estrogen receptor negative tumors have better have a better immunity response or immune response than that of ER positive or estrogen receptor positive tumors. Estrogen receptor positive tumors are subdivided into luminal A and luminal B. BRK is more expressed in estrogen receptor positive cancer cells. For for yes for the early stage of estrogen receptor breast cancer, hormonal therapies, for example, have been evidenced in amongst the literature. For example, pharmacotherapeutic agents or hormonal therapies such as tamoxifen have been evidenced, and at the same time there is then there is studies where some studies or investigations have found that protein tyrosine kinase 6 mRNA in amongst human epithelial in amongst epithelial cells, human epithelial cells. That there is there can be normal tissue, but at the same time, tumor cells the tumor cells can prompt phosphorylation, and there when and then additionally where then there's the active form of protein tyrosine kinase 6 is then expressed in the plasma membrane of cancer cells. Furthermore, BRK is amplified in amongst breast cancer, and there are markers such as ERB2, which is a member of the epidermal growth factor receptor family that localizes in amongst the plasma membrane. ERB2 also cooperates with BRK and increases the kinases activity, and then also additionally activate additional signaling and signaling in addition where the signaling prompts additional cells, and thus that the activity of the other components or cells then encourage further cell proliferation. BRK is identified as also a drug target for ERB2 BRK is also identified as a drug target for ERB2 positive cancer. A monoclonal antibody or a monoclonal antibody which has been in amongst the literature and evidence is Herceptin, which is that sort of monoclonal antibody that acts against ERB2 and used as pharmacotherapeutics for patients with high levels of ERB2. BRK expression decreases EBR2 kinases, ERB2 kinases inhibitor activity, and this is a reason why, or one of the reasons why, at least BRK is used as a pharmacotherapeutic drug target. Additionally, one of the initial sort of drug targets that are used. Oncogenic signaling is also encouraged by protein tyrosine kinase 6 and ERB2. Focal adhesion kinases and SRC phosphorylate, and thus then also provide binding sites for additional linkages leading to activation of membrane in around activation of membrane challenges, and then cytoskeleton sort of abnormalities, and prompting prompting or promoting cell migration in amongst breast cancer cells. So that draws this audio podcast to a close. This audio podcast is part of the probe, and this audio podcast is part of the Ztorm and Smash Up. This audio podcast is part of Consonant and Shout Out, and this audio podcast as part of the specials and a Ztorm Lobostics production.